Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis.
My whole thing is disrupted.
Those dog days of summer are here again, folks. The grass is brown in Oregon and Texas. The plains west of the Mississippi are bone dry. The cattle are looking rough, and the watering holes are getting shallow. The first cold breezes are coming late in the night, a promise of another wet season to come, and the ground cries out for rain. The peppers are coming ripe, and the maters are turning red. It's the skinny time for lovers of outdoor bud. The plants are putting on buds, but that stuff won't be ready for months yet. So you roll skinny and watch those plants pray. To all of you a bumper crop, full bellies, and high hopes come harvest time. This is the Cannabis Cowboy, and you are listening to the Bagseed Chronicles, friend. Pull up a chair, or a rock or something, and spark up. Listen close. You just may learn something.
Let's get political with former Occupy Wall Street activist Lukas Barfield today on the Bagseed Chronicles. But first, feed your head for the revolution. Grow your own, comrade.
Uncle Dick's garden update. Hello, it is August 7th, 2022. We are in gardening zone 8B, and I have your garden update. I have made 1 jar of homemade hot sauce with my peppers and have been harvesting serranos with some regularity. I have been using fresh peppers in my cooking a lot lately. I am happy to say I'm fortunate enough to be eating a lot of really high-quality produce lately. I recently made tortilla soup. Since we last talked on July 25th, I have given all plants age-old grow once and CalMag twice. Some will start receiving flowering nutrients soon, which will start out with Open Sesame by Fox Farms. CalMag will be discontinued around week 4 in the shorter flowering varieties and week 5 or 6 in the longer flowering ones. I've sprayed Bacillus thuringiensis twice, which is BT spray that prevents caterpillars. I've sprayed Captain Jack, which is a spinosad-based pesticide, once. This will be the last time I use spinosad in this garden this season. I will spray all plants once every 3 days, weather permitting, either with BT until the end of week 3 or 4 of flower, and Dr. Zymes until about week 6 or 8. I will cease all non-mechanical IPM once the flush starts. One thing I've been doing almost daily is rinsing the plant off with water. As the nights get cooler and humidity starts to raise, I may do this less often, but right now it's fine. Both Amnesia hazes are in flower and stacking well. They are a tiny bit nitrogen toxic. I can see this from slightly burnt tips. So while I was going to fertilize them tonight, I will wait a day or two to make sure I don't overfeed. The Canatonic, while my shortest plant at around 5 or 6 feet tall, she has the biggest buds, and I think she may be an early finisher in late September. We shall see, though. Right now, she crosses into her harvest window in early October. She will get her first flowering nutrients tonight. The Fire of Maroof 2 and 5 are doing great and will receive age-old grow fertilizer tonight. This may be the last heavy grow feeding they get, as they will be flowering soon. I am really looking forward to seeing the flowers on these girls. Both Fire of Maroofs are similar height, but one in the bigger pot has way more foliage. The Northern Lights is flowering and will receive flowering nutrients tonight. She is so tall at almost 8.5 feet. The CBD Dutch treat is doing awesome and just started flowering. She will be fed her first flowering nutrients tonight. These are some awesome plants. I hope your plants are doing awesome too. Good luck in the garden and stay safe. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Bag Seed Chronicles, please share it around. After all, the best bag seeds and stories are shared amongst friends.
Hold on one second.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bag Seed Chronicles. Today on the Bag Seed Chronicles, joining us is Lukas Barfield. Lucas is a cannabis home grower, activist, and educator, a disability advocate, host of the Cannabis Corner on 95.3 KTQA, 101.9 Radio Tacoma, and in the Tacoma Library. He is also a freelance cannabis writer. His work can be read on Ganjapreneur and other websites. Welcome to the Bag Seed Chronicles, Lucas.
Hey there, Uncle Dig. How's it going?
Fucking rad. I'm having a great day. I'm feeling really good.
Nice, man. It is a time to be feeling good, man.
Yeah.
Is Oregon on fire yet?
So I will say that at this moment, my part of Oregon is not on fire. However, just we are covered in California smoke, however, right now, though.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah. So that's why I'm coughing a little bit. We've been breathing in smoke for the past couple days, but they say that it might clear up on Tuesday, and I hope they're right. How's the weather been like up there? What's going on in your garden?
Oh, heat's been killing it, but oh man, my garden, dude. You were saying you want to talk about my garden. It's just my outdoor, because that's the one with the weather going on. It really got stunted with the bad rain that we always talking about on the Cannabis Corner over there, the weather, but it seemed to kind of stunted my outdoor plants this year because they just weren't needing water and they didn't stretch. I'm not sure what's up with them, but they've started to grow. We had a really big heat wave, so they're like, okay, now we're going to grow.
I wonder if maybe your cuts are like more like cooler weather, like more hot weather varieties, and they don't like to go if it's not like 85 degrees or warmer.
Yeah, it could be. They're kind of sativas, and I think supposedly sativas. I know one's a Jack Hare, which is like a Mexican sativa, and there's some like Afghan too or something. So yeah, it definitely could be a possibility. I kind of, because of the rain and just my schedule, I didn't get them out till like mid-June. I don't think they like the light cycle. I think they really like to be on that really upward swing of the light, and I don't know. I've always had success putting them out in mid-May around Memorial Day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I usually put mine out. My rule of thumb is around May 9th, Mother's Day, they can go out.
Yeah, they can here usually too. I mean, I probably could have done that this year. I just didn't. Honestly, I just wasn't able to go back and dig where I needed to dig.
Well, yeah, that happens sometimes. I mean, this year I went out my normal time, and then we had like a cold snap, and I actually had to run back indoors. So it can be different year to year, and you've always got to adapt to the environment. It sucks when you try and it doesn't work out. Have you thought about resetting your garden next year, like maybe starting with all new genetics and kind of shutting everything down and giving everything like a quick scrub and then restarting with some new genetics, kind of like a new you kind of thing?
It's funny you say that because I'm actually having to reset. I don't have a choice to reset right now. I remember last time we were on the show, we were at my house here, and you had noticed that I had some of those carrot cakes that went to flower, like when they were in the clone, because the cloner was kind of in the shade a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It had the light on it, and but it wasn't enough, and so some of the clones on the side over there went to kind of flower. So that sort of disrupted my whole grow, and plus I took 4 plants to put them outside. So that messed up my perpetual. I just wasn't, I didn't have my stuff prepared like I should, And so now I have 2 of those Jack Hares that I mentioned in the flower room, and I just took out 2 of the other ones, the Big Smooth. Not getting super big yields, but no, I don't want to reset the genetics. The Big Smooth is a really nice cannabis plant. It's a pretty big producer when it gets going, right? And it's just really strong. And then the Jack Hares, I have 2 coming on right now that are might get like a half ounce or more off each one.
Nice.
But super like lemon. I was a little skeptical as actually they were the right Jack Hare genetics, because I grew Jack Hare back in 2015. these weren't quite smelling like that until I did this second round of them, and they're really smelling lemony and sativy, and they like, oh yeah, this is gonna be nice. But as I mentioned, my whole growth cycle, the perpetual and everything got interrupted. And so now there's two plants, one's coming out next week and then one's coming out 2 weeks later. Well, my grow room is going to be just empty. So I'm actually having to reset on purpose.
Oh wow, okay, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, well, I'll just have to go like a month or two without a harvest. So
Yeah.
but then I'll be able to build my veg back up and then start putting those back through. But
See, that's so
it's
that's so
okay.
funny. Like you say, a month or two without a harvest, and for the longest time, I was only growing outdoors, and I would only get one harvest a year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're small harvests when you're doing the perpetual like I'm doing. So you're just kind of going through a little bit at a time.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just a little money saver. I'm still having to go to the stores and everything and to supplement. It's just kind of a fun hobby. We got like a little small tent and but it's going to be cool because what I'm going to do is I am going to do a little math and find out exactly how much power my light is using there.
Okay.
And so then I'll know, okay, grow room, and I'll be able to take that tent, clean it out, and get everything ready again. Yeah, so it will be a reset, and not the best thing, but we'll be all right. But I'm not going to reset the genetics. I got my carrot cake, this big smooth,
Okay.
and this Jack Hare, and I'm like, man, these things.
You've
Once I get
you
them
kept that
going,
carrot cake around for like what? Like almost what? Like 3 or 4,
oh,
5
we're up
years?
on like 5-6 years now, and I almost lost it with this little that's what stopped me right now. I had to take these two carrot cake plants because I got one of those outside, dig, and the thing, it won't even. It's like 6 inches, 7 inches tall, and
See,
it's acting so weird.
mine are already flowering some of my plants.
Yep, I had one that carrot cake outside is trying to flower. It's just acting real weird. The ones on the inside, I had to actually just keep them under the light until they finally started putting up new limbs. So what I'm gonna do is just let those limbs get really big and then use those as clones so I can make sure I get me a nice, really strong clone to, as you said, kind of reset everything. So,
Right.
and then next year, we're gonna work a little harder to get some autoflower seeds and just do those outside
Okay. Okay.
and maybe do some cuts. But
I've ordered autoflower seeds. I'll give you a seed bank. Like they may charge you, but they get there. Like I have them, and I have, they'll mail them to you. You get them. So
yeah, doing the cut thing because the Washington State numbers with the 15 plants.
yeah.
It's really hard because, like, I had 15 plants when I took those 4, put them outside, and you see what happened. It just disrupted my whole thing is disrupted. Hold on one second. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that but no problem. Again, we got good genetics, so we're gonna keep that.
Have you? Yeah. So that's good. I'm glad you're able to keep a hold of the genetics at least. So switching gears a little bit, like I noticed I've been following because we usually talk about some of the legislation on the cannabis corner, and we've been on a break, and now I'm itching to talk about it. So I was going to ask you, have you seen this legislation they've put forth in the Senate?
Yeah, I've heard about it and did a little reading on it.
Okay, what did you find in your reading?
Oh well, it just looks like it's a bill that will decriminalize cannabis on a federal level,
Okay.
whatever that means.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, and then leave the cannabis regulations up to the states.
Oh, so it's basically just gonna like codify not federal lack of enforcement, basically.
Yeah, I guess. I find it interesting because it's like there was a Republican bill over in the House that was the same. And so it looks like just a stripped down. Now, I still do think they have some expungement and social equity things in there, but I think they kind of
Right.
stripped that down a little bit. And then but it's unclear because West Virginia Manchin says he's not going to support it right now. And I was just, there's medical cannabis in West Virginia, so that's kind of like he should maybe look at that. But then it's not clear whether the president support. He has said he support decriminalization, but full legalization, don't quite know.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't think it will pass. I kind of think it's one of those things they do for brownie points periodically. I don't think it has any hope of becoming the law of the land. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that well, they got to have the banking first because they won't just um. But like you said, it's practically decriminalized anyway, except in it's just hit and miss like we talk about on the cannabis corner. That's the whole problem we're having right now with cannabis laws.
Yeah.
Is in one place you can be just fine, in another place you might not be just fine, but maybe there in Georgia you might go 10 years without getting arrested for cannabis growing it, but then one day, pow.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's really difficult out there. Like Florida. Florida, you can buy medical cannabis and you can do this and do that, but if you grow some, you can go to jail. So
See that
it's
like what
interesting.
it's crazy to me because like you and I are doing it like we're both home growing. So like at the scale you and I are doing and have done it in the past, like while here in our medical programs or in Oregon, even rec, it's completely legal to grow plants. If you and I were in Texas or certain states where it's illegal, we would do like not just like jail time, but like long prison sentences for
Hmm.
this. And it just
Yeah.
blows my mind when I sit out there on my back porch after I've done my garden chores and I'm smoking a joint. I'm looking at these big, beautiful plants. And I think, if I were in Texas, they could just whoop my ass and send me to jail for 30 years for this shit. And it ain't never been right. And it's kind of sad for the people that still live in those states.
Yeah. Oh, or not. Or not. There's a lot of people homegrown in Texas out there. It's a big state. It's just it's like the luck of the draw. You're living in a prohibition state. You might one day you're okay, and the next day, wow, oh, police saw me with a plant. You're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to live like that.
No, it'd be really difficult.
So switching gears a little bit, you've been. I've noticed that you've been. Last time when we visited, I know it's been a few months. I came up to see you in Washington, and you were showing me all these different vaporizers. You've gone pretty heavy into the vaporizers. You seem to like them more than smoking now. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
it was not expected. COVID got me looking at maybe to quit smoking because I'm just turned 47, so my lungs aren't super new as far as cannabis, and I was coughing a lot around COVID, and I was like, oh wow, I can't. It's gonna be hard to be smoking with this disease going on.
Right.
So I bought a Plenty, which I ended up need to get fixed. It was not their fault. It was a really great device. I think I might have dropped it or something happened to it, but it's a nice device, which led me to some other devices. But yeah, I've pretty much switched from not smoking cannabis at all.
Okay. Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. See, I've tried to like go heavier on vaporizing and stuff. And I have several vaporizers, some that Atomic 9 has sent me, some that I've bought myself. I own a Volcano and I'll use them, but I mainly use them in winter, like in my
Hmm.
little studio here when I don't really want to smoke inside my studio.
Right.
Because right now, I should have turned it off before we recorded. I have a little fan in here that exhausts air during the summer and creates some airflow. So it makes it so that I don't have to deal with the smoke if I smoke in here. But in the winter, I shut the room off because it's too cold to be doing that. So I vaporize in here. I don't smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I recently got a Mighty Plus from Stores and
Okay.
Bickle, like a Plenty, um, same brand but a different unit from them. And man, I'm telling you, I was like, wow, this thing. And you can read my review over on Ganjapreneurs. It just kind of came out of the blue, and I did that, and I wasn't expecting to get it, and I got it, and I was like, oh wow, this really does sort of change vaporization. And there are some other brands out there. I have like a little $80 one from another brand called Yokan, a little
Okay.
handheld thing. And I mean, it's not as great as the Mighty, but it'll vape your cannabis pretty good for you.
Right.
And so there are some cheaper brands out there, and I just find it more like a more even tempered kind of medication. And the cool thing about the Mighty is they have these little caps. They're like 0.15 grams.
Yeah.
That's a tiny amount, and you use that, and it really shows actually how powerful THC really is.
Right.
Um, because you vape that little tiny amount and you're like, oh wow, that's plenty for me. Excuse the pun.
So, I don't know if how closely you've been following this Brittany Griner case. I've been watching it a little bit, and it seems like some people have chimed in and have taken it as an excuse as an opportunity, I should say, not an excuse, to criticize the Biden administration. And it almost seems to me like this might end up, because starting out as an opportunity for right wingers to, make fun of Brandon, as it were, for one thing that he's really getting wrong with. This looks really bad, right? Because he's working to free a cannabis prisoner abroad, and there's still cannabis prisoners locked up here, and his amnesty program, if there is one, is anemic or non-existent. So I think there is a lot of room to criticize there. Do you think we're looking at like a nice little purpleization of cannabis as a topic, as a civil liberty topic, where the hard right may take it up as much as the left has? Or do you think this is just a topic du jour for now, and they'll forget about cannabis when this is all over, when the Griner case is resolved?
Oh, well, I first want to say just free Brittany Griner, and then we got to make sure that any criticizing we do of the Joe Biden administration, that we're not, I recently learned this term, it's called camping. Make sure we're not camping for Russia and trying to excuse their behavior for Joe Biden's not so good behavior.
Oh, right.
So, yeah, we want to make sure we're not trying to lay out any cover for Russia, which sometimes I feel like some of the Trumper people might be doing. So, I don't take anything they say seriously if they have anything to do with civil liberties or especially anything with any kind of racial thing going on. Trumpers,
Right.
I don't feel like they're sincere about that at all. I feel like they were more let's go Brandon type. They just want to criticize Trump. Having said that, though, like the upper echelon Trump people, the Trump media, Fox News and all that, I believe that is true. Now, having said that, though, an interesting observation here in Washington State, the Senate candidate up against our Senator Patty Murray, Democrat, the person on the my wife and I, we read the voters pamphlet, just kind of go through there and read to folks. The guy who says, I am a Trumper, he says it right in there. One of his things, Dick, is decriminalize cannabis, but he says marijuana and outlaw big pharma. So that really, it's like, oh, wow. So deep down.
I feel like you remember the old joke is, if you go far enough left, you get your guns back. Maybe if you go far enough right, you get to smoke weed again.
Yeah. Well, who knows? But, it's just a wild, there's some wild politics going on out there with the cannabis legalization. And, but I do think it is right to criticize the Biden administration for trying to make that trade when we have the cannabis prisoners here. So I'm not camping for Russia, but I think it's ridiculous. And that's another thing with this legalization. Now, why is it taking so long on federal? Just legalize it and let all the people out of jail. It should not be so difficult.
And this is also a reminder, regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong, guys, when you're flying, please be careful. And if you, there's just not a good way in a lot of these repressive regimes. And I think it's fair to call Russia a repressive regime at this point. I mean, they're castrating Ukrainian soldiers and doing all kinds of god-awful things. So I think we can call Russia a repressive regime. I think that's a fair critique. When you're traveling in a repressive regime, please be careful about contraband. And I know that it sounds like this, according to Miss Griner, this was an honest mistake and a misunderstanding. It behooves you to understand the laws around any medication you're taking, regardless of what it is, when you travel. And it's not just cannabis. Some drugs that are legal in other countries aren't legal in the United States, and vice versa. And I can't think of an example right now, but I am sure they're out there. For example, some stuff you can buy in a Mexican or European pharmacy, you cannot get over the counter in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So you must be careful when traveling. And cannabis is one of these weird substances where the laws from one country to the next could I mean, literally range from like the death penalty could be on the table, or like
Mhm.
public caning,
Yeah,
to literally like nothing. Have fun, have a nice day, nice cannabis. Like that's how wide the law varies. And if you come from one of these places that's very permissive about cannabis, it's easy for some people to forget that when you travel, you can really get into a lot of trouble for cannabis. So please be careful. If you're traveling internationally, please check your bags thoroughly.
and in the United States. I mean, if you were to get some cannabis and fly from Washington into Kansas City or something, and they found it at the gate,
Oh yeah, you're
you're
doing
gonna
time. Yeah.
yeah, you'll be doing a little bit of time. So, or you'll be having a big hassle. You gotta be careful. But we're going internationally, definitely got to be really careful.
Yeah, because then you're passing, border customs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're a whole different level of thorough if you don't know how to pay them off properly.
oh
And
yeah. Well,
I don't. I don't.
yeah, I
I'm
have
not.
friends overseas, and I've never even asked them. Like I had a friend just came back from Morocco. I joked around with her, bring me some seeds back, but I don't expect it. A friend in Mexico, friends in Colombia. I'd never been like, hey, bring me some seeds or something, because I know gonna be big problems.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think the only people that ever get away with stuff like that are soldiers, because
Mm-hmm.
they squirrel it away on shipping containers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's how they get it back. I don't think they're getting it back on their person, although I could be wrong. I like to tell people I was a very like naive and law-abiding soldier in a lot of ways. Like there were certain rules I didn't break, and the drug rules in the Army I generally didn't break,
Mm-hmm.
unless I was sure I could get away with it. And cannabis is not something you can get away with if they're testing your urine, because once you do it, it will be there for, even if you're in good shape, a couple of weeks. So, and that's not something else to consider. Like the driving laws in some states of the United States, you may be looking at a DUI for having cannabis above a certain amount in your blood, whether or not you're inebriated or not. So if you're a heavy user or someone that uses edibles, and it's like the morning, after you took your meds and you're driving to work, you may not be inebriated. But if you get pulled over in Texas, for example, they test your blood. Texas is not a freedom loving state. So if you have to submit to you have to submit to the drug test, or they'll just detain you or take your license or whatever. So you have to submit to that. They test it's over a certain amount, you automatically pop with a DUI, regardless of whether you're inebriated or not. So you got to remember so if you're a heavy cannabis user, maybe you let your buddy drive while you're in Texas. I don't know. It's just something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't used to test blood for cannabis back in the day, but now it's more legal. They probably would in Texas. There was a case just went all the way to the top of the Supreme Court here in Washington State, and they ended up upholding the Washington State cannabis DUI law. So, yeah, that's a big issue. I'm blind, so I don't drive, so it's not really something I pay attention to.
Well,
right. Got to
right.
be careful too.
Right. Yeah. That is one thing I guess you don't have to worry about is the driving laws. But that's how a lot. And I'm like you said earlier, all this decriminalization, if you're not legalizing, you're leaving it up to the carceral system, i.e., the police and the prisons and the judges, to decide not only what the laws are, how to enforce them, and who gets popped. Right. So I could be slurring my words at a police checkpoint in Texas, and I might be, let's say I'm a local white guy. The officer knows me. He lets me go. He says, "Go home. Don't do it again." But the next guy ain't so local, ain't so white, and he gets popped for cannabis. It's all up to the people who participate in the system.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And
you
we
know
that
which way they're gonna go every time.
Right.
Black, indigenous, people of color, they get the raw end of the stick every time. And that's proven out by statistics over time and time again. So like you said, we have to stop leaving this up to the guy on the street enforcing the law, aka the police, and just decriminalize it where we don't have any problems like that.
We should limit the reasons that police have to initiate a police encounter to very few, because the more police encounters you have, the more likelihood you are going to be injured or detained by the police, whether or not you've done anything wrong.
Yeah, I think stats prove that out.
So anyway, on to happier things. What are you excited about this year looking forward into cannabis?
Oh, I'm looking forward to getting my grow back going again.
I bet,
Yeah,
man.
It's uh, I really had my perpetual going. I was really happy with it. I had it like every 2 weeks. I had to put one in on the 1st, put one in on the 15th, take one out on the 10th, take one out on the 20th, or however it was working out.
Right.
And just a half ounce every 2 weeks, just clunking along. Really fun. And so I want to try to get that back going. As far as any kind of news, we're going to be trying. I did get a home grow resolution passed here in the local Democratic Party that I'm trying to run up the
Nice.
party flagpole here in Washington State. So we're still trying to get that home grow resolution passed. So working on that as far as the activism goes. And
Hey, and if you're in Washington, listen up. Get involved in activism however you can, because that's how this stuff gets done. You don't have home grow. You don't have real cannabis freedom. Being able to buy cannabis at a store is not true freedom. You need to be able to grow it at your house. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, it's true. And we're working on that. I don't know what's going to happen at the state level. I don't want to predict what's going to happen, but and I'm also working on a new writing project as far as my cannabis goes, and hopefully
Cool.
next show I'll have a update on that. So, and the Cannabis Corner is going to be moving into our 6th season, dig, and
That's
we're going to
amazing.
be show 50 is coming up. We got 49, 48 is almost done. Then we got 49, and then we'll be starting our new season off with show 50 coming up. So that is going to be real interesting, kind of see how that plays out. We're going to be putting it on Spotify and all that, slowly but
Cool.
surely.
Okay.
And I'm just interested to see what happens. And that's another kind of fun thing going on. So KTQA is growing, so that's fun. And so lots of cool stuff going on here in Tacoma.
Awesome. Hey, I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for being on the Bagseed Chronicles, Lucas. It's always a great time.
Yeah, thanks, Dig.
You can reach me, Uncle Dig, on Instagram at Uncle Dig. The bumper music on this podcast was produced by Chad DeVilliers on ukulele. He can be followed on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid or on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises. Thank you for listening to the Bagseed Chronicles.